And today, our beloved leader, Cara, is going to get to share with us a little bit about herself and what she's going to share about later this week. So, I know many of us know Cara, but for those of us who don't, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm on the other end of the microphone, so to speak. Um, yeah, so I live in Gilbert, Arizona. You've probably seen that on the block a million times, but we moved here almost exactly 4 years ago. Grew up in the Southwest my whole life, originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and about 4 years ago, like the Lord just dramatically lifted our family up out and uprooted us out of our hometown, out of the communities that my kids had grown up with their whole lives. And me, I mean, I was a native there. So everything I knew was there. And so we started this new chapter out here. It's been really, just ever since been really great and really hard all at the same time. So we have four kids, one just graduated college, another one in college, a high schooler and a middle schooler. So busy with four kids, just got a new puppy. If any of you follow me on Instagram, and he's so darn cute. His name is Wally. And so yeah, I work from home, doing the things that you all see on writer's block, but also have a couple other ventures. I have a marketing company that I do, and then my own personal writing efforts as well. So that that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, those big transitions are exactly what you said. They're so good and so hard,
Yes.
those transitions, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about writing. So did you always want to be a writer? How did you get into that?
Yeah. I come from a long line of writers and artists. And so because of that, I never thought I would be one. My mom is a twice published, traditionally published writer. Um, and I have just a lot of artsy people in my family. Um, I had like traditional artists, oil painting artists type
Mm,
grandparents and writers and that kind of thing. And I think because of that and because of my upbringing, I just thought that's their thing. That's not my thing at all. And so I kind of I remember one time my mom got me a, an opportunity to write a column in a newspaper in high school. And I was like, I realized at the time, I was like, okay, this is a cool opportunity. I'll take it. And I wrote the column, and I was mortified by the picture that was in the newspaper. And I don't remember giving them the picture, because if I did, I would have never picked that picture. And so I just was like totally like traumatized by that whole thing. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. And so I just kind of ran from that. But yeah, writing kind of came into my life through the back door of like starting other businesses. And that's
mhm.
that became kind of an exciting thing to me, because I think I thought writing meant becoming like a fiction writer, or a
Right.
nonfiction writer, which my mom was both of those things. And so I just thought of writing in a very one-dimensional way. And it
Yeah.
turned out that I started to learn the skills of copywriting, which eventually got me into like nonfiction Christian living writing. But it was kind of like I had to kind of get there in a different route
Yeah.
than what I had been exposed to.
I love that because there are so many different ways that we can write. And I think often to people who don't know what I do, I'll say I'm a writer and they instantly have an idea of what that is. And then when
Yeah,
I tell them what I do, it's very different than what they've expected. And so it sounds like just from what your family did and where you landed, very different paths.
very different. And
Yeah.
I thank God for that, because it ended up giving me more skills that I wouldn't have otherwise had. I think um yeah, because I didn't think I was a writer. I didn't think I could write. I just thought I saw people in the writing world as being like they were so much further ahead in the game that I thought, how can I ever
Yeah.
start? Like I'm such a newbie, I'm such a beginner. I don't know what I don't know. And I think if I had gone that more traditional route, I would have been more intimidated and maybe never gotten here. So it was
Yeah.
neat how the Lord brought me here.
Yeah. So speaking of, so clearly that's not the path. It wasn't column writing in the newspaper
Nope.
or or a fiction book or anything like that. So how did you get into writing?
So when my when I had just two children and I was actually pregnant with my third, I was in that very early stages of mothering and had young children at home and looking at my educational options
Yeah.
in Albuquerque, and they were slim. And I thought, there's just no way I can put my kids in public school, and there's no way I can afford private school. And I don't really think I want to homeschool, but it felt like the only route. And so, but through a series of events, I ended up becoming a part of a group of people who said, hey, let's start this hybrid type school where the kids are in school part-time and then they're home part-time. We thought we were making this whole thing up, but it existed all over the country. But we got involved with that, and that was back in 2008. And I was so excited about it for my kids. And that was another sweet thing the Lord did, because it was not about me. It was not about like learning how to become a writer. I was doing this out of love for my children and for the community.
Yeah.
I started to do all the writing for this school. So and just because it was an all hands on deck kind of thing, everyone was just being thrown into things that weren't necessarily our strong suits, but things we were willing to do. So
Yeah.
I wrote radio commercials, I wrote the website, I wrote all of the promotional materials. I ended up later on got the school accredited, and I realized I had like I was gifted to be like organizational, at least in my
Yeah.
thinking, and I could take concepts and I could break them down and make them make more sense. And we were also really trying to start this kind of new old educational
Mhm.
approach, which is called classical education. And that required explanation to the public that didn't understand what that
Yep.
meant. And so I was learning how to take these big concepts that were I had wrestled through, and I had to figure out what they meant, but kind of put the cookies on the bottom shelf for people.
Yeah.
And it was in that process that I was like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. I mean, I was learning, I was growing, but I was also enjoying it. And I could see that it was resonating with people because people were joining us in this educational effort. And so, yeah, that's how I got started with the writing. So it
Yeah.
was a passion for education, for Christian education in particular, that all of those kind of writing and marketing skills started to develop.
Yeah. What I love about that is that writing is never just writing, really, for any of us, right? It's writing for healing, or it's writing for an audience, or it's writing because we have a story inside of us. And for you, it was writing because you wanted to get the school off the ground for your kids. And so it's often writing is the mechanism by which you're doing something else.
Yeah.
And for you, it was marketing this school. And we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I love the concept you brought up that a part of marketing is educating the public on the thing you're doing.
Yeah.
So, can you talk about that just a little bit about why that's important? How does marketing play into that? Like, what's the importance of marketing?
Yeah. I think in some ways, like maybe the marketing idea feels really, it feels really official, and it feels like, there's all of this marketing science and stuff. To me, it was just about being a persuasive person. Like it was
Yeah,
always about getting people to come over onto this side, this concept, this pedagogy of education. So really that's how I view marketing. Like it's about being persuasive, it's about being winsome, it's about using, and I hate to use the words like psychology, because I think in this circle, like we all might, our guard might go up, but there is an element of human psychology. Like what are the things that people are feeling the resistance to, what are the pain points, where is the rub in their life that like your product, your idea, your solution, your whatever it is can help them get over from that pain point into their after um, section, so
Yeah.
that was, to me, that's all it was all about like, how can I make this not only like help people, like, but like help solve problems, make their lives better, give them a bigger vision of, in the early case, like what education can be for children. Like this is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, and I wanted to like help people understand that. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question. It was really just about learning how to be a persuasive writer.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I mean, you were helping people see their need and you were helping people see how what you were offering the school
Yeah,
met that need, right? And that's often people know they need something, but sometimes they don't have a clear picture of what that is or how to meet it. And so
yeah,
that's what I'm hearing you say is that marketing for you at that point was telling the world this is what we're offering for your children and this is why it's amazing and it's going to help you and it worked because people signed up.
yeah, yeah. That was
That's great.
the real like proof was in the pudding. Like
Yeah.
this is working. People are resonating with this, and um, yeah, I was learning all through that process, like what
Yeah.
works and what doesn't work, and I think
Yeah.
that's part of marketing too, is experimentation and playing and um, tapping into different human emotions,
Yeah.
and seeing where that really hits with people's needs.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've continued with that. You've continued with marketing and helping people through your marketing skills. So what does that look like now?
Yeah, so that I'm no longer a part of that school. When we moved, obviously that changed. But as I was doing that, one thing I forgot to mention, like another reason I loved the whole copywriting idea was that it allowed me to stay home with my children, which was a real
Yeah.
priority to me. And so I wanted to be there and to be that influence in their lives. And um, so as I was doing that, I was like, I think I have some marketable skills here that I can offer other people. And so that morphed into my small business, which is called Avocado Toast Marketing. So that was, I think the school gave me the courage to try that and to market myself to other people. And it's been such an adventure since then. That was in 2017 is when I started that business. Um, and since then, like Tim and I have worked together on some things. He had some skills really related to website development, and I was learning alongside with him. He had made several websites for his businesses, and so I was learning from him. So he was learning, or he was teaching me really like how to put together a website and what are the elements that are really important. And then I was writing all the websites.
Yeah.
So together it kind of worked into this like holistic like service that we could offer. We can not only help you market yourself, your business, your product, but we can also like build the website and we can put the copy together for you as well. And so that's kind of what it became over time. And initially it was just like, I'll write your emails, I'll write your sales pages, but now it's kind of morphed into that all-in-one kind of thing with building a website and creating a web presence
Yeah.
online.
Yeah. So who's your target audience? Who are the people that you're helping?
Well, it took me a very long time to figure that out. And I still get like, I still get like kind of one-off kind of things, which is cool. But really, I've really been helping um, coaches, different kinds of coaches. So generally like professional coaches, um, women who are starting their own businesses in that kind of realm where they're coaching other people, a lot of creatives,
Hmm.
but people who are, building and launching businesses. Just recently, I helped someone who's launching her own business, which is in the granola food space, and she
Nice.
creates granola. So it kind of is all over the place. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the challenges with, like, we've talked about this in the writer's block a lot. Like, I think you cast a big net in terms of like who you want to work with, but you kind of attract the same type of people over time. And so generally for me, that has been um, career coaches, which is interesting
Yeah.
because
That is
they
interesting.
found me. I didn't really go out looking for them, but
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. But I know that, so that's a lot of writing and that's a lot of work and that's a lot of your time, but you also write in other spaces too. So when and how did you start writing for yourself?
well, all of that whole time, from the time we started the school and to the time I launched my business, I was enjoying all of that work, but I never felt like it was really soul satisfying to me. Like, I always wanted to write in the Christian space. A lot of the on creative, I call them creativepreneurs that I was working with were not Christians. That's always been a challenge too. Like when you're writing for somebody and you're like, wow, I so disagree with you on your whole approach to life.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there was just this part of me that was like, yeah, I really want to write for the Lord. So it was during the pandemic, really. I think so many of us
Yeah.
have stories of like, that was a big cultural shift. There was a lot of things changing. And I just always wanted to write my own blog. And so my husband encouraged me to do that. And I just put it out there. I was like, I don't know what this is really going to become. I found my holy leisure idea and I just ran with that. And I just thought, I'm just going to do it. I don't know what this will be or become, but
Yeah.
it really it like satisfied that itch in me
Yeah.
to write my own material and kind of see how that's evolved since then has been neat. But yeah, it was just a matter of like, I'm kind of a ready, fire, aim person. Like, I don't think about things too far, too long, because
Yeah.
I'll talk myself out of it. And I was just like, that's it. I'm just going to do it.
Right. I love that. And I think I'm circling back to it again, but I love that there's different spaces to write in and there's different ways to write. That there's the business side for you that's copywriting and helping creativepreneurs, but then there's also this soul satisfying side that
Yeah.
taps into your faith and your passion and your joy, and that's a different space. It's still words. It's just words used in a different way, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's really neat how flexible and diverse writing skills are. Like,
Yeah.
I think my experience is just like this one little fraction of it, but I
Mhm.
think it's just even like, this is a bit of an aside, but even like just with the onset of AI technology, like
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
that's been very scary to me. Like, I'm like, what does this mean for my business? What does this mean for the
Yeah.
work that I'm doing? Um, Abigail. Anyway, she keeps throwing in things from last week, but I think that the thing is this: we are made in God's image. We are in the Imago Dei, and that part of that is
Yeah.
being creative. And I don't think computers or robots or whatever it is they're using will ever replace that. And so I think I would just encourage writers to keep doing it, keep leaning into those
Yeah.
creative things. I think we can use these tools. They can help us become more efficient, but yeah, they're never going to replace the human element that writing offers the world.
Yeah. I that there's ways that God works in each one of us that's super unique. And that's what we say, right? Is that yes, you may be saying something that the world has heard before, but you're saying it in a specifically unique way that's from God through you and through your experiences. And AI can't touch that. It
Right.
just can't. And our God is infinitely creative and infinitely unique. And the way that he works through his people, just it can't be replicated with a computer. Praise God for
Amen.
that.
Amen. Yes.
Praise God for that. So, how does this business side of you, this marketing side of you, partner with this creative, holy leisure side of you?
Yeah, I guess when you say it like that, they do kind of sound opposites of each other in a way. But it's been fun to see, like, I I guess unless you knew me earlier, you would just have known, like, I feel so inadequate, so like I'm not qualified to do anything
Yeah,
that I'm doing. And God has used a lot of that just to shape me. And like what you just said, Melissa, about how like God creatively uses people in so many different ways. And I used
yeah,
to tell people that all the time, but didn't really see that in myself. And so I think that that has just been kind of a cool marriage that the Lord, and really like no credit to me, because these are all opportunities literally dropped in my lap and I just took them. But I think that the marriage of being able to see things through the lens of somebody else is a
yeah,
gift that writers can use to make their writing reach people where they're at. And so
right.
I think about that. I think of like not only like the visual aesthetic that I think writing should be, and I think it should be a pleasurable activity, but I'm also thinking of like how what is the felt need of my reader, and how can I help move this person from
Right.
this before state to this holy leisure state, which is my
Yeah.
whole that's my whole niche. But yeah, I think the marketing side has given me that lens to be like, um, this this is a common struggle. This is a common feeling people are dealing with. And how can I like put that hat on, be that person and feel what they're
Right.
feeling in my writing so that they understand God's word has something to say to them in that space.
Yeah.
So I think that marketing mindset goes into some of my writing in that way.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure it goes into just the building of your website and those basic things, but I love that you're boiling that down to that there's a mindset with marketing that's outward facing.
Yeah,
You are thinking about the person receiving your message and how are they going to receive it. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. We tend to think of that as a business type of thing, but there's also a very God oriented aspect there, right? Of how can I love my reader well by
mhm,
communicating this message in a way that they can hear it and receive it. And I think that's a lot of what you're talking about too, is that marketing mindset affects the way that you communicate this God-given message God's given you.
absolutely. And just the way people engage with us when they're looking around online, like that website, and that's kind of where my expertise kind of lands. But that website is that first impression. It's that first um, perception of who
Yeah,
you are as a writer, and it's like you have to put that mindset on of your ideal website visitor. Like what are they looking for, and how can
right.
I position myself as a quote unquote expert,
Yeah,
which I know we all kind of like cringe a little bit with that, but God's given us all these different set of skills and experiences that make us uniquely capable to speak into that pain point for somebody. And so
right,
when they come to a website, what's the first thing they see? What
right.
what benefit are they going to receive? How can I help them move from this before state to this after state? And
Yeah,
so yeah, it really helps put that together in a way
it's
in which
good.
that's the way the world interacts these days. Like we
It
just,
is.
whether we like it or not, that website is that first impression. And so it should be a good one. And how can
Yeah,
we make it the best one, you know?
yeah, yeah. So before I ask you this next question, I'm just going to state for the record, I know not all writers are in the same place. So I know some writers are still trying to figure out who is my reader, what is my message, may or may not have a website, may not be to the point that they're ready to have these marketing conversations. And if that is the case, bookmark this talk, come back to it when you're ready,
Yeah.
Don't be overwhelmed. There are no shoulds here. This is if and when you are ready to do this. Kara's got some thoughts for you. So just stating that for the record. So as we go into that, Kara, so what are some of the biggest obstacles or struggles that you see writers having as they are pivoting to wanting to create that platform for themselves and for their message?
Yeah, I think that first thing that you mentioned is the very biggest obstacle is that I don't think they're clear in their own minds and their own thinking about who they're writing to or what their main
Right.
message is. And
Right.
I would say to those people, do it anyway. Like, don't
Mhm.
worry so much. Like, you don't have to have that all figured out in order to start. I would say, ready, fire, aim, do it. I think over time that works itself out. Like, there's an evolution that happens in your own heart. You see what resonates with
Yeah.
readers, what you enjoy really leaning into. And so I think that that comes with time. Um, so do it anyway. I think that that's one of the biggest things. I think maybe another thing is that writers tend to, well, a couple thoughts. Like, I think some writers put their words out that are more like internal wrestlings that aren't
Right.
necessarily ready for public reading.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I am of the mindset like the stuff that you put out should be top notch, like it should be really high quality. It should be something that you've really labored over. And it's not necessarily just the musings of your heart. I think that's what social media is for. Like, you muse away on social media,
Yeah. Right.
but make your website like a really polished presentation of who you are and do it for the
Yeah.
glory of God. So I think that's one thing. There's the writing that's like internal and not necessarily publishable. And then there's the stuff that's meant to bless others. And so I think writers should do that. And then I just think there's the visual elements. I think sometimes
Yeah.
you can fake it till you make it on in the world of digital marketing. I think
Right.
there's so many tools out there that can make you appear more polished and more professional than maybe you feel inside, that will help
Yes.
people bridge that gap of thinking of you as like your homespun blogger. And those
Mm.
people are great, and praise God that there's platforms that anyone can build. But if
Yeah.
you're wanting to build a platform to maybe get a book deal someday, to gain readers, to build a list, all of those things, like, there are so many tools that you can use to create a really nice, clean, simple website. Because again,
Yeah.
that's your first impression. I admit that I go to a website and I'm like, ugh. Like, she may have amazing things to say, but I can't get over the aesthetics. And
Yeah.
so that's a really, again, whether we like it or not, like, we're visual
Yeah.
people and this is the world that we're living in. And so I don't know. I think that there's just a lot of tools available for writers to put a more polished look on their work than maybe they feel inside. Like, you can be wrestling and evolving as a writer and your message and who you're writing to, all of those things.
Yeah.
Um, and you can still put forth a really nice, polished looking thing to kind of help alleviate some of those hurdles that your visitor might have and give you the
Yeah.
time of day to read what
Yeah.
you have to say.
And like you said, there's social media, there's journals, there's lots of places to put those unpolished words. We all have them,
Yes.
right? There's the messy first draft, there's the musings, there's the prayers, there's the I don't feel like a writer today and I'm just going to write not great stuff all day. That's fine. Do that. But
Yeah.
just don't hit post. Don't
Yeah.
hit post on that. Don't
Yes.
do that.
Yeah, or put it
That-
on your social media and hit post, but save
yes.
your website for that polished, forward facing
Yes.
platform, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, there were years ago, I mean, in the early blogging days, I had a Blogspot blog, one of the free ones, but I set it to private because I didn't want anybody to read it, anybody else but me, myself, and I. And I really was just writing about our life and raising our kids, but that is a big piece of what has helped me have confidence to be able to hit publish now in a forward facing way, is I did it a lot privately where I didn't worry about, you know, the whole world turning to my website
Yeah.
and seeing it and going, we have judged you and you have been found wanting. I mean, I think that's the fear, right? Is we're
Yeah.
afraid that as soon as we hit post, the eye of Mordor is going to look at us and we're going to be burned up and we're going to die. And it's like,
Yes.
that's not
Yes.
going to happen. You're going to be okay. So
Yes.
I love that. But that's a lot of what you're doing is helping people do that, right? Is you're helping them have that the polished words, the polished look on their website so that they can hit post with confidence.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
like you said, like there's a place for the family blogs and there's a place for all of that. But in
Yeah.
just it's what the context of what we're talking about is like platform building. Like
Yeah.
this is what it should be. And
Yeah.
yes, there's so much like fear, I think, that goes into that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think every time I publish something, I'm like, post like
Yeah.
it's a scary thing, and I
It
think that
is.
it's a very vulnerable thing to do, and so there's a
It
lot of
is.
that internal wrestlings that go on in my heart every time I put something out there, because like these words are my babies. Like I've labored
Yes.
over these words. I want them to like flow, and I want them to reflect my heart, and I want them to be true. um so yeah, it's a very vulnerable, and I
It
say
is.
brave thing to do.
It is. And just for every perfectionist who showed up today and is rewatching this on the replay, let's be clear that polished, don't hear that as perfect.
Right.
Polished does not equal perfect. You do not have to be perfect online. Polished is different. So I know you're going to be teaching us some more on Thursday. So tell us a little bit more about what we can expect from that teaching.
Yeah, I was telling Melissa a little bit before we hit record that this talk has evolved in my own mind, and I've been thinking about you all in my marketing mindset, because I know some of you have probably heard, my webinar before. So I wanted this to be new information for you. And I feel like the Lord has given me kind of a fresh take on some of it. So I think of all of the marketing things in P's. I don't know why, but it's just an what is it? Not acronym.
Alliteration.
Oh, thank you. An alliteration that just keeps coming up. So I have all of these P's. I have like 10 or 11 of them that I could talk about. So I was like, okay, which 3 P's am I going to use? So we're going to talk about the purpose of our writing a little bit more. We've talked about that some here today. And then we're going to talk about the platform side, how we can kind of use some of the tools
Okay.
that are available to us, some of the things that will help us stand out in a crowded, loud marketplace, if you will.
Yeah.
And then also the presentation. And so that presentation is some of the aesthetics that we talked about. So we'll talk about all of those. And then, later on in July, I'm going to talk more about positioning. So that's another P but that'll come later in July. But those 3 for now, and just kind of talk about some of the ways that we can, and I use this word, I'm laughing. I think it's funny, the fake it till you make it, but like
Right.
how we can like position ourselves in a way that makes us alleviates any of those barriers that people might have to
Yeah.
come and engage with our words. And so
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say that. It's just a way of using these tools that we have available to us, and crafting them in such a way
Yeah.
that we can win some people over to our side of
Yeah.
whatever we're talking about.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to do this, but Rosemary made a comment that I think is worth addressing in this part. But she was saying, it's so hard when you hit post and then people are so rude online because they can hide behind a screen
Mhm.
and they make these, rude comments or they're saying unkind things about your writing. So it makes it hard to hit post. And what would you say to that about
Mhm.
about having the courage to hit post anyway?
Yeah, that's so hard, Rosemary, and I totally get it. I think sometimes people get that internet bravery thing, which is it's so unnecessary and unkind. I think number one, if you're writing in a spiritual realm and vein, and I'm not sure if you are, um, I think there can be a lot of spiritual attack behind some of that kind of thing. I have experienced some of that as well. And I think that's in some ways, it kind of makes it a little easier to deal with because you realize, well, maybe what I'm saying is really hitting a nerve and that it really, people don't like it. And so I would just say to kind of have that whole ducks back approach, we have to have thick skin and soft hearts. And I think that whenever we put our stuff out there into the world, like you have to be willing to stand behind it.
Yeah.
Unless, and I think there's room for us to evolve in our thinking on things if we're being challenged on something that I like to look at that with a grain of salt. Does he or she have a valid point here? Have I missed something? Did I not phrase something well? Like I would always like look at things and say, how could I have done that better? But at the end of the day, like Jesus had tons of enemies.
Yeah.
Like, and he was speaking truth all the time. So I don't think that when I put things out there that it's always going to be really warmly received. And
It's not. Well, and I would say to that too, that it's who's saying it, right? Is that a voice that is
indeed,
that your ideal reader? If it's your ideal reader, then we should probably pay attention a little bit and go, did I miss the target? Did I, how could I craft my message to reach them a little bit better? But if it's just an internet troll,
which
they're
are,
not your ideal anyway. So they're just going to go out there and cause chaos and create problems. And it can still be painful to hear those things, but it's also who are we writing to? And I think most of us that have an ideal reader, we have someone in mind that we're thinking of when we write. And we go, okay, well, how would that person respond? How would God respond to this message? And I think that's another way to think through that is this person that is responding the person I wrote this for? And if it's not, then I don't know that they get to say much about it. I
yeah,
can be a duck and I can let it roll off my back and it may
yeah.
hurt a little bit, but the sting disappears a little bit.
And in a way, I feel like that's a test of our humility to be able
Yeah,
to put our stuff out there and not like I think Ronnie was the one who was talking about our words become so precious to us. And
yeah,
sometimes we have to detach a little bit from that,
yeah,
and be humble. Like you said, like, is this the person I was writing to? Is there validity in what they've said?
right.
And if there is, then I might go down this trail. But if, like you said, if it's a troll and if it's just a God hater or truth hater,
Mm,
then you're probably onto something. You might be right over the target and doing exactly what you should be doing, and
yeah,
you should keep going.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, so Thursday, is that right? You're talking to us on Thursday.
Yes,
So I typed it somewhere and I've lost it. So platform, presentation, purpose. There it is. Purpose, platform, and presentation. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah.
Perfect. Is there anything else you need to add that we've missed today?
No, I'm really excited about this. I think I hope that it will be a blessing to you all, and I welcome questions. Happy to talk over specifics too, because I think a lot of
Yeah,
these things are general principles, and there's the difference between, okay, what is the principle here that I should apply, and then how does that maybe work itself out in real
sure,
life on my platforms, on my little corner of the internet.
sure.
Like, so I'm really happy to talk that through in specifics with anyone. So
Yeah. Well, if we have just a minute, for the people that are here, if you have a specific question for Kara about marketing, if you could just drop it in the chat, that way she could have it to look at and be able to respond to it later. So does anybody have questions for Kara about marketing or platform building that you would love her to put some words on? This is your chance. And while they're doing that, thank you, Cara, for sharing a little bit of your story and your background. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed that you have so many P's. That feels like a full-fledged article that you get to write about at some point and
I
tell us all the P's.
I know. I keep coming up with new ones. So you might see more of these talks in the writer's block in the future, just fair warning.
Yeah, I feel like this is the subject that most often comes up that writers need help with is that platform building and
Yeah.
marketing and putting our face forward and saying, this is who I am and my message is worth listening to. Because that quiet inside of us goes, is my message worth listening to? And
Yeah,
so
for
that
sure.
marketing
And
is hard.
it's kind of in some ways, it's a wonderful blessing and it's a great equalizer, right? That
Yeah,
it can give just anybody, just
yeah,
anybody, the opportunity to put their message out into the world in a way that, like, in history has never been heard of before. So, in so
yeah.
many ways, this is like we should take advantage of these opportunities that are ours right now. And
Yes.
at the same time, I say that there's a little bit of grief involved in it too, because I know we don't all love this part. Like
Yeah.
maybe it feels like this is a life sucking activity where it's like, I just have this message I want to share, or I just want to write my book and I don't want to have to worry about building this list and, you know,
Yeah.
building a following. And, there's both of those things that kind of go hand in hand. It's like, it's a wonderful opportunity. And yet it is kind of this like necessary quote unquote evil that we have to kind of work through if that's our goal in writing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, plunder the Egyptians, take what you can from this talk and apply it to your life, to your writing, to your platform building
Awesome.
is
All
my
right. Well, there were two
philosophy.
questions. I'm going to read you those two questions, then we'll close it out. You don't have to answer them now. You can address them later. But one is about the difference between Instagram and websites and how do you approach marketing differently for each one of those, especially since Instagram is less permanent, but you own your
Hmm.
website. And then the other question is best ways to start. Everybody probably has made a little bit of progress toward branding or marketing, but what are just the basics? Like, what are the simple one, two, three of just starting simply to get going? So, those are
Yeah.
the two questions posted in the chat. So,
Well, I think we have a little time.
sure.
Yeah, I think Instagram is a great tool to drive traffic to your website. I am not a great person to talk to about building Instagram followers. There are women in our community who are way better at that than me. I think in my mind, I've not wanted to invest a lot of time in Instagram. I need to do enough, but I don't own Instagram. I don't own the algorithms. I am limited by what they deem appropriate to put my stuff in front of other people. But you own an email list. And so you can use Instagram as a tool to move people to read your stuff and hopefully subscribe to your blog. That's how you build a list. So I think Instagram is a great tool. It's
Yeah.
a very visual tool. And I think that's been one of the struggles that I've felt as a writer. Instagram is great if you have a visual thing to share. So that's one of the difficulties of writing. I think a lot of writers are very creative in how they market their message visually, but that's a different area
Yeah.
of creativity in the brain. And so yeah, I think it's great to use, but I think of it as subservient to building an email list and building a presence online. Like my goal always is to get people on my website. I just want them to look. I want them to hang out. I want them to read my latest article, and then I want them to poke around some more. And so the chances of them subscribing are higher
Yeah.
when they do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and so a little plug for Paige. I know she's going to be teaching soon, but she talks a lot about social media and Instagram and
yes,
funnels. And so Instagram is really just something that funnels people to your website, which then funnels them to your email list where you have direct access to them. So the marketing
yes,
is a little bit different.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning from her
Yeah, Paige is
too.
fantastic.
Yeah. As far as like ways to get started, So let's see, there's a lot of things you can do. I think I've always felt, and maybe it's because I'm a writer, but I feel like going through the exercise of writing out your website copy is a very clarifying process. You can, if you don't have a website already, I can help you kind of figure out like what are the elements that you need. But generally, you need like a good, strong headline. We're going to talk about that on Thursday, how to create that really attention grabbing headline that really it's like the money of your website. And, you know, David Ogilvy has this great quote that when you're writing your copy, he was a famous advertising exec on what is it? Not Broadway, Madison Avenue in New York. And he says that when you are writing your headline, you need to spend 80 cents out of your dollar on your headlines. And so headlines are really a unique skill, but I think that helps you really identify the who, what, when, where, why, how of what you're doing. And then you need a really good like intro paragraph to who you are. Those kind of exercises can help you figure out what your goals are, what you want to accomplish with your website, and then putting those into a website and giving yourself this platform and this playground in which you can play in is really, really helpful. So I think that that's a helpful exercise. I also think surfing the internet and looking around and seeing like who are the people that are in your space that are similar to you, and how can you differentiate yourself from those voices? Like, oh, I really like the way she does this, but she's a little too friendly in her approach. I want to be a little bit more professional or a little more buttoned up, or vice versa. I think kind of getting to know who are the voices that are in your space is a very helpful thing, because then you can really start into that like differentiation element of who you are as a writer and where you can lean into, because that's in the marketing world, like you need a niche, you need a focus of your words, of your work product to go in this direction. And so I find that to be really helpful too. So if that's what I would say to somebody who's just starting out is surf around, get to know who's out there, what you like, what you don't like, and then take that information and just start sketching out a Word doc of like how you would position yourself as a writer. And then the next step would be to plug that into a website.
And I would say, I've heard this advice. I think it's good advice. If you struggle with imposter syndrome at all, when you're looking around at other people's websites or their bios or their Instagram and you're seeing what you like and you don't like, don't look at people in your niche. Look at someone else. Look at, if you write about faith, look at somebody in the exercise field. Or look at somebody who makes granola or whatever it is that they do, so that you're seeing tone and you're seeing the way they present themselves, but you're not comparing yourself to them and feeling fear about that.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's really, really wise,
Yeah.
because you can take those elements from people in niches outside of your
Yeah.
own and be like, oh, I just really like the way she, like Amy Porterfield. If you don't know who Amy Porterfield is, she's like this marketing guru. I don't always agree with everything she has to say, but she has such a wonderful presence in her videos. And I'm always like, oh, I want to be like Amy. But no, but I get ideas from her of how she engages with people, how she makes
Yeah.
conversations flow, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
you can take elements
You
from
can.
all different areas.
You can. And one other idea I would give too on that is, I was telling Cara before we got on the video that I had seen this writing prompt once for just writing like a 10-word bio. But think about too, like writing your bio for Instagram is going to look different than writing your about me page on your website versus the 2 or 3 sentences if you have an article in a magazine. What are you going to say about yourself? So try writing it a couple of different ways too, because that's going to help you find your voice and how you actually want to present yourself on your website.
Yeah. And that would be a difficult exercise.
It's a
To
hard
get it down to
exercise.
10 words. You have to have a lot of internal clarity to do that. But I think that's a great idea.
Yes. So thank you, Cara. This has been so helpful and so encouraging. I know this is a
Yeah,
really difficult topic for a lot of us, but I feel like there's a lot of hope because we can do this, like you said, purposefully. And we don't have to do it perfectly. We can work our way into it, which is really exciting and hopeful.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Melissa. Thanks for being the
So,
host today.
yes, remind us Thursday, right? Remind us what time on Thursday?
Oh gosh, you put me on the spot. I think we're at
I'm
the
sorry,
same
I can
time.
pull it up. Yeah, same time you said?
I think
Okay.
so.
Well, y'all can check in the writer's block. We're not going to misquote ourselves. We're just going to say Thursday. Look for
Same time.
Cara
I just
and
got
get
it.
the.
Yep, same
Okay,
time.
perfect. Same time, same place, but on Thursday. So
Yes.
thank you guys for showing up.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
All right. Bye, guys.